Hi, this is LeetCode 3005, count elements with maximum frequency. So you are given an array nums consisting of positive integers. Return the total frequencies of elements in nums such that those elements all have the maximum frequency. The frequency of an element is the number of occurrences of that element in the array. So let's look at example 1. Example 1 gives us a list which consists of 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 4. What can we gather from this? What we can gather is that there are two frequencies of 1. There are two frequencies of 2, there are one frequency of 3, and there's one frequency of 4. So just looking at this, what's the maximum frequency? Well, we can find out that the max frequency is 2. Now, how many of those have maximum frequency of 2? Well, both 1 has it and 2 has it, and that's a total of 4 counts. So the answer is 4. So now that we know what we're looking for, how should we approach this? Now, what do we need? What do we know? We know that we need to count um, the frequencies of elements. What else do we need to know? We need to know what the max frequency is. And then after that, we need to do the total frequencies that has the max. So sum of elements that has the max frequency count occurrences. So how can we do this? Now, for the very first one, what we can do is actually, what if we make this a hash map? With a hash map, we can have the key being the num and the value being the count. So now, if we were to do something like hash map and doing, let's say, for num and nums, so it'll iterate through num, so it'll give us 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 4. We actually can't um, do this. We can't loop through and add one. That's because um, the hash map is empty. So what we want to do is get something from the collections library called default dictionary. So now what default dictionary will do is actually if we initialize it with int, meaning it's going to be integer, it will initialize all of anything that we create with the value 0. So when we add 1, it will equals 1. So there won't be any errors with the type. Now, there's actually a better way to do this. Another better way is actually using something called counter. Counter does the exact same thing. However, you can do it much, much shorter. If we just do count, or if we just do any variable name equals counter nums, it will return the exact thing we're looking for, where it counts the frequency of elements. So now, what do we do with max frequency? With max frequency, what we can do is same thing, loop through, and then get the maximum value by just comparing it to the previous max. However, there's actually a function that does it all. It's called the max function. Max function, whatever is contained inside, will grab the maximum value. So let's call this max frequency. And now, what do we actually pass as the parameter? What we need to know is passing the values. So the counter is pretty similar to the dictionary um, class. However, there are some nuances, but for most part, it's very similar. So what we can do is within dictionary, what they have is the values. So we can do count values and return all of the values. So with, let's say, for example, 1, it has 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 4. We know it's going to return like 2, 2, 1, 1. So it will know the max is 2. So we got 2 from here. Now, how do we actually sum it all up? What we can do is within dictionary, there's also a thing called items. With items, it will give us both the key and value. And with that, we're able to loop through um, by doing a key value for loop like this to be able to first compare. Let's say we can have like an if statement of if v equals max frequency, and then we can have another um, variable that is added until we get all of the ones that we need. However, we can shorten this. We know what we're returning is just a sum. So whatever function we were to write here, we know we could just return it. But we can actually simplify it. And to do that, there is a function called sum. Sum will sum up all of the um, values that's contained inside. So now we need to make sure whatever's contained inside is both iterating through all of the counts values in our counter, and also making sure that it is the max count. So to do that, we can just do, let's say for v in count values, that means the variable is v, it's going through all the values, um, and we want to return v. Now, what this does right now is just adding up all the values. So we know from our previous one, the values are 2, 2, 1, 1. That means it's going to give us 6, but we don't want 6. That's not the answer. What we want is all of the values that are the max frequency. So we can also add this operation of if v equals max count. And now with that, um, oops, apologies, it's max frequency here. With max frequency, SG give us exactly what we're looking for. Let's submit, and there you go. So thank you for watching. I hope that helps.